Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone for teaching us his truth. And salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquat that may listen. May the blessing of election be over your house. My name is Brother Requai. I'm back in here with another quick lesson. And for today's lesson is going to be a bit of judgment and counsel. And what inspired this lesson was a bunch of recent events that I was experiencing over the last week and even into this week as well. People, coming up to me specifically, for advice, things on what to do and how to do it and how to go about this and, multiple different examples of people coming up to me and actually wanting to especially just people in the world specifically even Israelites and even heathens of the other nations as well. I noticed that just people were just coming up to me and then they wanted my advice on particular things. And I was looking at it spiritually, and I was thinking about it earlier today that that is part of that is part of having being blessed with this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? And because what comes with it is that people would notice certain things about you because you don't carry yourself as a particular, like a degenerate, essentially, right? You carry yourself with a standard, right? And it makes you what? It makes you very, very peculiar, right? It makes people actually notice you, you know. Actually, before I get Sirach, I wanted to open up with this precept, actually. Hold on, Salakia. In regards to that light. Okay, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 8 verse 1, and it reads, "Who is as the wise man, and who knoweth the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom maketh his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed." Right? So that's part of the I guess what accompanies this walk and this journey is an understanding that this is what's actually happening, because people are very drawn to light. Either people are very drawn to the light, or they kind of hide back under the covers. Like imagine if somebody's sleeping in a dark room, for example, and somebody turns the light on. Some people are very drawn to it, or they kind of scoff at it, so they cover their they stay in darkness, essentially, right? And that is part of what comes with actually having this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of knowing who you are, right? So, and one of the things I also noticed was the fact that I just had to give counsel on certain things, in regards to certain, people's, personal matters. People would, they would open up to you about, their things that are, going on in their personal life. They might ask you, okay, what's a strategy on how to execute a particular thing that they might be struggling with, right? And that is all part of, that is all part of the journey of actually being in this walk as well, because people are very drawn to that because, this world is completely filled in darkness, right? It says in Isaiah chapter 60 that, gross darkness covered the earth, and it also covers the people, to roughly paraphrase, right? So, when the whole world is engulfed in darkness, confusion, chaos, decay, degeneracy, when people see a light, they're very, a lot of people are going to be what? When you have this wisdom and knowledge, people are going to be very drawn to it. Therefore, they're going to be very drawn to you because the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, is over you, right? So, so in regards to just a couple of things I just wanted to bring out, and I don't want to make the lesson too long, but I just wanted to share this experience and offer that spiritual understanding of actually what's going on, right? So let's get First Corinthians. Okay, this is First Corinthians chapter 6 verse 2, and it reads, "Do ye not know that the saints shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are ye unworthy to judge the smallest matters?" Right? So, the saints are who? These are the Israelites, right? And, we as, Yahweh Ratasa, being, the hopeful elect, right? Being those hopeful judges to actually execute judgment, over the earth. What's going to happen? These are essentially fundamental basics and things that you're going to be going through, right? Because people will come up to you in regards to these things, and what happens is you learn essentially how to be a good judge, right? There's a scripture in Sirach chapter 10. It says, a wise judge, what? A wise judge instructs his people, and just like the people, so are the officers and those that are underneath him, to roughly paraphrase, right? In Sirach chapter 10, right? Because just going back to the earlier point I made, this planet, this the rulerships that were under, Esau and these elites, what do? They pollute the earth with unrighteous judgment, unrighteous decrees. As a matter of fact, let me get that just to back up my point. Okay, this is Sirach chapter 10, verse 1, and it reads, "A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein." Verse 3, and here's the point. "An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited," right? And that is the exact sentiment that is over this place, that is over Babylon the Great, that is over the politicians in these countries, right? They are more specifically in the Western nations, right? That is the sentiment that is over this place, because there are unrighteous rulers, and even above them, those elites. When you go into the history, I'm just going to use the Rockefellers as an example. The way that they've made a lot of their money, through, I think it's petroleum, if I'm not mistaken. They were really, really heavy into the petroleum industry, and you know how a lot of Israelites, they like to use that petroleum jelly, and they use a lot of these different chemicals to actually pollute the minds of the people, right? That the chemicals, they see through your skin, right? This is an example of an unwise judge, right? These are the different things an unwise judge will do. They will pollute the air. They will pollute the oceans. They will pollute the food supplies, right? Even that lady Vanessa that they were giving out and they were forcing people to take in regards to health, those things are different causes of pollution. That is the vibration of an unwise king, knowing and understanding that we're living under an unwise king, right? So that is the point I also wanted to make, right? And this is the stark contrast between those elites, these Edomites, and the hopeful elect, right? The elect will have a mind of a wise king, right? Because they're being engulfed with the minds of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? With the mindset, with these scriptures and understanding the laws, the statutes, and commandments, right? So what I want to do as well, I just wanted to grab let's see. I want to grab Sirach 37, but I want to get it in the GNT, right? Because I think it reads a little bit more nicely. And in regards to, also giving counsel, because I noticed as well, there's another part of the lesson that I had to, give counsel on certain things. Not major issues, but I'm just saying this is something that comes with the territory, essentially, right? And it was just something I thought about being mindful as I gave that counsel, right? Um, this is Sirach chapter 37, verse 7. And this is in the GNT. So I found this online, and it reads, anyone can give advice, but some people do so only in their own interest. Verse 8, be careful when someone offers you advice. Find out what his interest in the matter is, because you can be sure that he is thinking primarily of himself. Right. Why should he come out on top of you, come out on top instead of you? He will assure you that things look good, then stand back to watch what happens to you. Right. So I thought this is, very, very interesting, because, you know, sometimes, you know, um, you know, having this knowledge and this truth, it's a lot of information that gets revealed to you, through the Holy Spirit, right? And I was thinking about it, and um the people in the world, they don't have access to this wisdom, knowledge, and information, right? And dispensing the knowledge, especially to somebody who whether they're especially to our people as well, people who are trying to like improve themselves and put off a lot of those old habits. I just thought about it, and I likened dispensing this knowledge as to kind of like watering plants, right? And I thought it was very interesting that as you give counsel and give advice on particular things, in a righteous sense, it's kind of like you're watering a plant, but you don't want to overwater the plant and drown it, right? Because the people, especially in the world, because it's so covered with gross darkness, it's you don't want to feed them steak when they're not you know when they're not at that attitude, essentially, if that makes sense, right? So I thought that was very, very interesting. I was thinking about, as I was giving, counsel on particular things, knowing how your audience is able to digest this information, right? The scriptures talk about, the milk, being a symbol of the basics and the fundamentals, right? And then what happens? The scriptures also talk about strong meat, right? And knowing how to kind of understand your audience, so you don't have your audience choke on something that is too digestible for them, too indigestible for them in the spirit, essentially, right? This will, as dispense and give advice to somebody who's sincere, right? Verse 10, it reads, don't ask advice of anyone who doesn't trust you, and don't give advice to anyone who is jealous of you. Don't ask a woman for advice about a rival of hers, a coward of war, a merchant about bargain, a buyer about selling, a stingy person about gratitude, a cruel person about kindness, a lazy person about work, a casual worker about finishing a job, a lazy slave about a difficult task. Pay no attention to any advice they may give, right? So they know that's, you wouldn't want to ask a woman for, like, just think about it. You're not going to ask a woman for advice, in regards to a woman, another woman, especially because, it's a competition, right? They're not going to give you excellent counsel, right? I think there's an account as well in Second Samuel when the son of David, Absalom, he had this friend that gave him, poor counsel in regards to taking King David's concubines, right? And we know which is horrible advice, right? So just being mindful of these things as well, right? And just being mindful of yourself as well, um let's see. So what I want to do, I just want to get a a quick account of a righteous king, giving out and issuing judgment, right? Let's get um an account with Solomon. Okay, so this is First Kings, chapter 3. I want to start at 16. I want to read to the end of the chapter in the NLT. So just bear with me. So here the title, it says Solomon judges wisely. Okay, so it says, sometime later, two prostitutes came to the king to have an argument settled. Please, O Lord, one of them began, this woman and I live in the same house. I gave birth to a baby while she was with me in the house. 3 days later, this woman also had a baby. We were alone. There were only two of us in the house. But her baby died during the night when she rolled over it. Then she took it up. She took. Then she got up in the night and took my son from beside me while I was asleep. She laid she laid her dead child in my arms and took mine to sleep beside her. And in the morning, when I tried to nurse my son, he was dead. But when I looked more closely in the morning light, I saw it wasn't my son at all, right? So now, just to paint a picture of the situation, Solomon, has to hear these two different claims from these two different women, right? So this is just an example of someone who, a righteous king, right? Before he started going off, right? A righteous king actually issuing forth that judgment, going back to the one of the earlier precepts I brought out in First Corinthians 6, right? So further on, it reads in verse 22. Then the other woman interrupted, it certainly was your son, and the living child is mine. No, the first woman said, the living child is mine, and the dead one is yours. And so they argued back and forth before the king. Then the king said, let's get the facts straight. Both of you claim the living child is yours, and each that the dead one belongs to the other. All right, bring me my sword. Bring me a sword, Salakia. So a sword was brought to the king, right? So, this is where, the story actually starts to intensify, right? So, verse 25, and it reads, then he said, cut the living child in two. Give a half to one woman and the other half to the other, right? So, King Solomon, he had to actually get stern in this situation, right? So that's sometimes, when you give essentially counsel to people, sometimes you actually have to, get like that, be in that spirit, right? And sometimes that's not always necessary, right? You know, okay, verse 26, and it reads, um, then the woman who was the real mother of the living child, who loved him very much, cried out, said, oh no, my lord, give her the child. Please do not kill him." But the other women said, "All right, he will be neither yours nor mine. Divide him between us." Then said the king, "Do not kill the child, but give him to the woman who wants him to live, for she is his mother." When all Israel heard the king's decision, the people were in awe of the king, for they saw the wisdom of the Most High Yahweh had given him to rendering justice, right? So so eventually, what happens is she confessed, and this is the kind of judgment that King Solomon had to issue forth, right, to actually get a response, right? So I just wanted to bring this out, because I thought this was very, very very, very interesting, and this is a bit more of a larger issue, but I just wanted to equate that to um experiences that I was going through recently, and just to also look at it spiritually, just for other young brothers as well, why these things happen, and the sorts of judgments that you will also have to give forth, right. And that's just knowing that there's sometimes when mercy is required, and sometimes a harsh judgment is also required, right? So knowing how to discern between the two, right? Anyways, I want to end it off right here, but hopefully this video was edifying. I kind of went back and forth between the counsel and the judgment, but hopefully it all ties together nicely. And I just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth. Till next time, I say Shalom.